Most haunted house stories begin the same way. A dark hallway, a cold spot, a whisper that could be the wind. This one begins with something worse, architecture that doesn't behave. A staircase climbs like it's leading you somewhere important, and then it ends in a ceiling. A door looks normal until you open it and realize it was never meant to be opened, because beyond it is a drop, or a dead end, or nothing at all. Windows exist where windows shouldn't exist, sealed into walls like the house is trying to hide its own past. People call it haunted because haunted is the easiest word for a place that doesn't follow the rules. But what if the real explanation isn't spirits? What if the house is haunted by something much more believable? Grief, obsession, continuous reconstruction, and one earthquake that cracked the building's logic in half. Tonight, the Winchester Mystery House, a haunted place with a real explanation. The Winchester Mystery House was the personal residence of Sarah Winchester, and it became famous for its bizarre, maze-like design and seemingly irrational features. Over time, the public story hardened into a single supernatural headline. Sarah kept building to confuse ghosts. The house's own official history acknowledges that rumors spread while she was alive. People speculated about why she kept building, and even whether a psychic had instructed her. That detail matters because it shows the haunting wasn't only discovered later. The haunting narrative grew in real time, alongside the construction. And once a legend attaches to a place, every creak becomes a clue. But here's the key. The house is weird even if you remove every ghost story. Because the weirdness is physically there. Wood, nails, plaster, stairs, doors. So instead of starting with spirits, start with the building itself. Ask a more practical question. How do you end up with a house that feels like it was designed by a dream? According to the summary of the house's history, Sarah Winchester was known for constantly rebuilding, adding, altering, and abandoning sections of construction if the work didn't meet her expectations. The same summary cites a newspaper report from 1897 claiming a 7-story tower was torn down and rebuilt 16 times. You don't need the paranormal to create a maze. You just need time plus relentless modification. Here's what happens to any structure that expands in layers. Yesterday's exterior window becomes today's interior wall, so you end up with a window facing a room. Yesterday's exterior door becomes today's door to nowhere because the space beyond it was remodeled, removed, or sealed. Hallways get rerouted, rooms get subdivided. Stairs get inserted where they fit rather than where they should fit. The house starts behaving less like a plan and more like a living organism that keeps growing new corridors to patch old ones. And that creates a specific feeling when you walk through it. You feel like the house has memories. Because it does, just not supernatural ones. It has architectural memories, previous versions of itself, preserved as mistakes you can still touch. But the Winchester Mystery House didn't just grow, it broke. And that break is one of the most important, real explanations the legend ever got. The 1906 San Francisco earthquake hit the region, and the Winchester Mystery House was damaged. The same summary specifically links some of the house's most famous oddities, like doors and windows that open to nowhere, to the severe damage from the 1906 earthquake. This is the twist that flips the story from spooky to structural. Because an earthquake doesn't politely damage a house. It shifts loads, cracks supports, collapses sections, and turns normal design into hazard. Now imagine you own a sprawling, constantly modified mansion and an earthquake hits. A staircase shifts out of alignment. A hallway becomes unstable. A balcony collapses or becomes unsafe. A tower or upper story becomes dangerous to occupy. Then you respond like a person trying to keep living there. You block off sections, you seal openings, you reroute traffic through safer paths. Suddenly, you have a door that used to open into a functional area, but now opens into emptiness or into a sealed wall. Not because spirits wanted it that way, because the building got wounded and was bandaged, not restored. If you want a real haunting, this is one of the best kinds. A disaster that permanently scrambles a place, leaving behind confusing scars that look intentional. The house becomes eerie because it's partly a museum of damage. And there's another layer here that makes the place feel unsettling, even when you know the explanation. It doesn't just look damaged. It looks like it's hiding its damage. Let's take the greatest hits of the Winchester Mystery House, the things that make people whisper, ghosts, and match them to the grounded explanations in the historical summary. The windows that make no sense. Some barred or blocked windows were originally outside windows that became enclosed as the house expanded with additions. That means the haunted window into a room is often just a timestamp, a visible layer from an earlier version of the building. The doors to nowhere. The summary attributes many doors to nowhere to the aftermath of the 1906 earthquake and the severe damage it caused. Once you accept that, the fear changes flavor. It's not spirits trapped behind the door. It's, this used to be a safe exit, and now it's a scar. The trap doors. There's a greenhouse room with trap doors, and the summary notes a practical reason. They were used for drainage. Excess water could be piped to an outdoor garden. So, a feature that feels like a horror movie booby trap is, at least in some cases, just plumbing. The small, strange staircases. The summary cites investigators Joe Nickel and John F. Ignafo, suggesting that small steps were built because of Winchester's declining health. That single detail is huge because it reframes the house as a place built around a body that was changing. When you know that, the house stops being a puzzle for ghosts and starts being something more intimate. A home being constantly adjusted, patched, softened, rerouted to fit the life of its occupant. And if that's true, the house isn't haunted by spirits, it's haunted by a person's needs, which is, honestly, more moving. But we still haven't answered the big question. Even if everything has a practical explanation, why does the place feel haunted? Haunting isn't only about what's real. It's about what your brain does when the world breaks its patterns. A normal building teaches your mind a map. Enter, turn, climb, exit. The Winchester Mystery House violates that map with maze-like layout and odd architectural features. When a space becomes unpredictable, your body starts treating it like a threat. That's not superstition. That's navigation stress. Your brain is constantly spending energy correcting itself. I thought that staircase would take me up. Why is it ending? I thought that door would lead outside. Why is it wrong? That constant correction can produce the exact sensations people describe as paranormal. Elevated alertness, unease without a clear cause, and the feeling of being watched. Now add the legend. The house's official history notes that rumors about its mystery spread while Sarah was alive. A story like that primes visitors to interpret ordinary sounds, settling wood, footsteps, wind, as proof. So the haunting becomes a collaboration. The house provides disorientation. The legend provides expectation. Your brain supplies meaning. And suddenly, a creak becomes a presence. Here's what makes the Winchester Mystery House such a perfect topic for Haunted with a Real Explanation. The real explanation doesn't ruin the feeling. It deepens it. Because if the weirdness came from decades of constant rebuilding, then the house is a portrait of repetition, an environment reshaped over and over. If the 1906 earthquake fractured it and forced sealing and rerouting, then some of its strangest features are literal trauma scars. If small stairs relate to declining health, then the mystery is partly the story of a life adapting to limitation. That's haunting, not the supernatural kind, the human kind. A place can feel like it contains a ghost when what it really contains is evidence that someone kept trying to control a world that wouldn't stay stable. And sometimes, that's the creepiest thing of all. A building that feels like a mind that couldn't stop rewriting itself. The Winchester Mystery House is haunted because it's a maze made of real history, constant construction layered on itself, then fractured by the 1906 earthquake into doors and windows that no longer lead where they should. So if you visit it, here's the question to keep in your head. Are you afraid of ghosts? Or are you afraid of what a human life can leave behind when it turns a home into a puzzle?